Welcome back to the Tacenda podcast. This is Richy.
This is Keegan.
And this is Micah.
Our Bible verse for the day is Matthew 21:9. The crowds that went ahead of him and those that followed shouted, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest heaven. And that is, I'm not sure what version that is, but yes, that is our Bible verse. It's related to Palm Sunday, so.
It is the Bible.
It is the Bible. And now for Micah's take. Cue the intro music.
Okay. So, since we're talking a little bit about politics today, I thought I'd share some thoughts on the subject. While it's not election season, I have discovered an urgent issue in this world that needs immediate attention. It is a practice so vile, so annoying, so horribly offensive that I hesitate to address it. But here I am nonetheless. I am talking, of course, about political campaign commercials. Political commercials suck. Excuse my language. I don't know what these candidates are thinking. You know what? That might be the problem in the first place. No one in their right mind would think this was a good idea. And no one likes their nightly TV being rudely interrupted by a poorly done, boring, whiny campaign ad. Smear ads are bad enough. They're essentially a cheap shot at someone who can't defend themselves. But the ads where politicians are explaining how great they are bug me too. They're almost as bad as lawyer commercials, but that's a whole nother thing. I would give some examples, but I'm not sure how copyright laws work. That's Richie's thing. So that's my take.
Yeah,
It's a good take.
it's a really interesting take.
Your next take should be about how all commercials should just be banned.
No more commercials.
Get rid of all commercials.
Especially
just subscribe.
Must not be named Burger King commercial.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Did you say Burger King?
BK.
Are you assuming that the burger is a king? I can't. Why am I even here?
I'm sorry.
Those campaign commercials, though, those things are so annoying. Like, some of them are really funny, like the one you showed me beforehand, but like others are just absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
Like, if you saw the one for Lori Lightfoot when she was like running for Chicago mayor, it was so cringe. It was horrible because she was just like, I've been keeping the streets safe, and she's like passing an ice cream cone or something to a little kid, and then like you just look at the crime rates and they've just been skyrocketing ever since she's gotten into office.
Passes an ice cream cone to a little kid. The kid takes off.
Takes her purse and
Even worse, she hands it to like some small child. Another child runs up, grabs it, and steals it.
And she's like, in my county, that's perfectly fine. I support that. In fact, I will bail that child out.
Did y'all see the Tudor Dixon campaign commercial?
No.
Tudor Dixon. Wait, who's that?
She ran from Michigan. I think she
Michigan.
lost.
Would make sense.
It was messy. Look it up.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
We'll do.
This is not an endorsement.
No. We don't endorse anybody but our own Ted Budd.
Oh yeah.
He's a senator, all right, and he really loves the Second Amendment. And his commercials are also really cringy. You can look at those on your free time. Tacenda podcast listeners. Tacenda podcast listeners.
It's okay. Graydon and I mispronounced it for the first 12 episodes.
We only endorse our own candidate. Richy
Berry.
Oh, yes.
For
senator. For
For
president.
dictator of the world.
Yes. Woo!
I'm kidding.
What's your first order of business?
Annex Bluey.
No more Burger King commercials.
I think everyone would agree with you.
Monarchy is against my form of government. This is a dictatorship. No more Burger King. It shall simply be Burger.
Burger.
Welcome to Burger. How can I help you? We're better than Mick. That's across the street. We stand by our name, Burger.
It's like in an explicit song when the lyrics just cut out. Burger, bleep.
Enjoy our new chicken and our new wok. They're great. They're delicious.
Oh my god.
And our new Impossible wok.
No, sorry, the improbable one.
Improbable.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's a first order of
Nothing's
business.
impossible if you believe.
That's true.
Dictatorship. Believe in Richy.
Yes.
Vote for this man. Give him some votes in the comments.
And now for the simple sports suggestion.
With that,
Yes, with me. Note that our perspiration is not because we're laughing that hard, but it's because it's insanely hot here.
No,
So,
it's super toasty. It's like a sauna.
yeah.
it's
So,
actually really cold and we're just lying to you.
Yeah.
yes.
It's called cold sweats.
This is going to be a short yet legendary take.
Okay.
Fighting should be allowed in sports. Now, we've talked about this before, but I'm going to do a little bit more in depth.
Okay. All right.
Of course, not in every sport. Football is already such a violent sport that more violence would be excessive and dangerous. Golf is a gentleman's sport, and fighting wouldn't really fit in. But for sports such as baseball and basketball, let's at least discuss it. Not with the bats.
Grown men with metal bats. Yeah.
Hockey is one of the few sports where fighting is allowed. Frustrated players are allowed to drop their gloves and show their passion for the game. However, this ferocious behavior allows for respect to grow in between players and rivalries to form between teams. What makes sports entertaining is not only the difficulty, but the drama that comes with it as well. For sports which have long seasons and often are boring, a little drama should be added to spice up the games. There should be limits, but fighting should be allowed in sports. Now, that's my opinion, my suggestion, but especially for basketball and
I think soccer too.
and soccer too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about soccer. Yes,
Yeah.
Micah.
Did you say baseball?
Yes. Now, like this, there should be
All right,
limits.
Jimmy, hold the pitcher still.
There should be no bats involved.
Hey, I need another one. This one's dead. I ain't just spitting sunflower seeds on it. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I would watch that. You know.
See?
Yeah.
It would boost the ratings, not all these stupid rule
Hey, umpire,
Yeah.
toss me the ball.
changes.
Yeah. Hopefully no one dies.
Yeah. Hey.
Hey, the pitcher gets to make the decision at the end of the day. If he wants to knock someone out, I mean, he can by throwing that ball.
There's a new call signed by the catcher. Knock him out.
The call sign is just
The call's right.
They're right towards his head.
pitcher's just holding it. There's a dude on first. There's a dude on home, and he goes.
Just throws it out. It's like kickball, or like even the bases don't even matter. You know? Like there's no safe spot. You just have to run.
Okay, so with baseball, no use
Yeah.
of bats or
Yes.
Yeah.
balls or
Yes, it should just be
Gloves?
fist to fist.
so
Yeah.
you drop the glove.
Yeah.
You can't like use it to slap someone.
That would be golf. Yeah. You disgusting.
Dude, it's so
That's
funny.
disgusting.
In golf, I forget the player, but somebody threw a tee at Rory McIlroy, and it was like a huge deal. It like blew up. Like he threw a tee at you, like at his feet, and like, whoa, dude, calm down.
It was definitely Happy Gilmore. It was
So,
definitely
dude,
him.
that movie's so
Wait,
ridiculous.
what about polo?
Isn't that on horses?
That would be like a big old sledgehammer. Yeah, they're on horses.
Horses and they have mouths.
It's just like Javelin 2.0, but just with hammers.
Yeah,
like,
it's basically a cowboy charge.
yeah. I'd watch that. You see, these are actually games that are really boring that I would end up watching.
Bring back jousting.
Yeah.
Simple sports suggestion.
I think specifically for soccer, we should definitely have it because they already fake so
Yeah.
much already that like if they actually got hurt, like
Yeah.
that would be interesting.
Well, an
Yeah,
argument
they would like be able to act it out even more because they're actually in pain.
Yeah.
Like
an argument I have heard in women's college basketball. Not that I was watching it,
Oh my
but
gosh.
there was a
Yeah.
podcast talking
So
about it.
interesting.
They were fighting during the game. Well, they were fighting not during the game, but in the handshake after the game. They were throwing punches at each other. So the idea was proposed by this podcast, Creighton Company. If you want to go check them out, pretty good podcast. But anyway, the idea was proposed that fighting should be allowed during the game, so that the tensions are let out, the passion is let out during the game, and then you have that respect in the line, the handshake line.
Just grab the ball.
I feel like the thing is though with like those specific sports, like women are
Well, I'm
can
not
be
saying
violent,
women's
but-
basketball.
I know, but like just in general, like with hockey, you have a little bit of protective equipment at least.
Oh, you have a ton of protective
Yeah,
equipment.
right. So like when you get to a sport like basketball, where they're wearing shorts and they look like a straight loon, when they get hurt and punched, they feel it.
Right.
So
Yeah, one punch just goes right
Yeah.
through 'em.
and then like you'd have to be able to determine like the limits then of like how far can you actually
Hockey
go.
has like a 15-second rule. If the
15 seconds?
Yeah, they just let him go for 15 seconds.
Bro, they just have to like run away. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
If the refs can't break it up, they just let him go for 15 seconds. Now
They try to break it up every time.
Yeah, they try to break it up, but if they start fighting beforehand, they'll usually let him go until there's like a stalemate because they don't want to get hurt and they can't get hurt.
Yeah.
I've seen the videos of people who do like a bajillion punches in 60 seconds. Or
Yeah,
whatever. Those are actually hockey players.
Yeah.
You got 15, so.
You should
Dude, the orthodontist jokes would start coming to America if we allowed fighting because nobody would have teeth anymore.
Yeah,
It wouldn't
I know.
just be hockey players, it would be every athlete.
Oh, I love that joke, especially when you use it on British people. They just do not have dental care. It's just non-existent.
Then again, Americans have a very, Yeah, so...
They do have a very... Take that one into account. Tacenda podcast.
Tacenda
podcast listeners.
Hey, he's just a guest, okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm
Get
not.
this man off the,
Okay, I was.
off the balcony.
This is just in case anything goes crazy. You know, we just chuck. That was a wrong opinion. That's not what I wanted you to say. I'm sorry.
At Tacenda, we value all opinions.
Exactly.
Except the wrong ones.
Exactly.
Go against dictator Barry.
Exactly. Yes. He
These
is
are my
in control.
enforcers.
Yeah.
Alright, moving on to our main segment.
Speaking of foreign policy, transition.
So, for our main segment, I'm going to give a brief background and then formulate questions for each topic.
Okay.
If you guys want to, you guys can add questions as well about the topic. So our first topic is the U.S. border. Let's start out with a statistic.
Okay.
According to Politico, I know biased, but this source was basically just a bunch of statistics. So
Yeah.
Politico says, quote, in fiscal year 2021 alone, U.S. Customs and Border Protection experienced 1.7 million encounters with aliens at the southern border, the highest number ever reported in a single year in U.S. history. That number does not include people who evaded Border Patrol officers. According to the Internal Border Patrol, estimates from January through August of 2021, more than 273,000 migrants avoided apprehension and entered our country illegally. Politico also says, quote, in Biden's first 100 days in office, he took more than 94 executive actions on immigration.
Who is he?
Sorry?
He took.
He took 94 executive actions on immigration.
Yes.
Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of those was the Remain in Mexico policy.
Right.
Yeah.
Those actions included 1, stopping the construction of the border wall, 2, attempting to halt deportations for 100 days, 3, suspending new enrollments in migrant protection protocols, 4, terminating asylum cooperative agreements with Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador, and 5, ending prompt asylum case review for non-Mexicans and humanitarian asylum review. Now he's going even further. Right now, the Biden administration is actively eliminating almost every tool America has to secure our southern border in the face of the worst border crisis in U.S. history. 1, Biden's new fiscal year 2023 budget proposes cutting border security funding. 2, he's ending Title 42, which returns migrants immediately back to Mexico. 3, he's fighting to end Remain in Mexico at the Supreme Court. And 4, he's giving USCIS officials the authority to grant asylum to migrants who cross the border without an immigration court or judge reviewing that claim. So, what is the cause of this mass migration, and why is it not being halted?
I would say
Strongly, yeah.
it's an awesome question, but I think we should go back first and
Okay.
say, like, is it important to secure a border, right? Like, why does that matter to a nation?
No.
Does it matter to a nation?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah, I definitely, absolutely. I think the problem is that since we are not down there as American citizens, since Joe Biden isn't down there, again, he hasn't even visited the border wall.
Neither has his vice president.
Neither has his vice president. They're not even down there, right? So out of sight, out of mind. That's completely, that's the entire agenda of the Biden administration has been up until this point, is if it's out of sight, well, it doesn't really matter because it's not affecting me. Inflation doesn't affect me. I'm not affected by the pump. I'm getting gas for free. That. It's like they're not affected by it because they're above it. But for people that are down there that are dealing with the increased crime rates and the people that are dealing with like that absolute monstrosity of like I said, crime and other horrible things like drugs as well going across the border. I mean, all of that is happening under this administration. They really haven't been doing anything about it. But besides open it up even further for more illegals to come in. But I have to pose this question is why would you do that? Like, what's the intention of doing that?
Right.
Do you want more people in the United States that vote for you? Because that's what it's kind of seeming like. It's seeming like you're trying to get in these illegal immigrants so that they can vote for you. That looks like it might be the end goal. But another point to that is what about these immigrants that are trying to get into the United States legally? Like, what about them? Like, they're trying to get into the United States via asylum or some other way, and they're actually coming from war-torn nations. And they're getting rejected, and they're trying to get in legally. Like, what's going on here? It doesn't make any sense that we're incentivizing illegal immigration. I think we should incentivize legal immigration. Hey, you want to migrate from Mexico to the United States? Great. Make a passport, make a visa, try to get into the United States legally. But that's not what they're doing, and the Biden administration obviously has made that clear that they're not trying to do that.
Let me go even broader than that.
Yeah.
Any nation cannot exist without border, because a nation is a group of people, and that group
Correct.
of people needs to a group of people living on a landmass, and that landmass needs a border to exist. You can't just let anybody in because you don't have a nation anymore, right? It comes down to specific problems like Keegan was talking about the massive drug problem, which we'll be talking about soon. How China's sending all these drugs through Mexico cartels to ruin the U.S. In its fundamental society, right? Because the people who are affected most by all this illegal immigration isn't in the Northeast. They're in the Southwest-ish, where the heart of the nation is. Well, that's debatable, but. Yeah, so...
I would also like to draw a historical parallel to ancient Rome. So near the end of... This is more of a military thing, but near the end of the Roman Empire, it was getting kind of carved away in pieces, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't like some huge invasion swept in and destroyed Rome, at least right up until the end. The empire kind of shrank, right? And while that's not happening to America, right? Mexico isn't invading. We don't have... we don't have other countries invading. We do have it's the philosophical concept of a border, right? Can a nation control its territory? And so I think we can all agree that at least maintaining a border, right? Choosing who to allow in your country is a good thing.
Yeah,
definitely.
Because as a new culture comes in, your nation's culture, your way of government isn't understood by those new people, because migrants from other countries, as a European, most Europeans do not understand the U.S. way of government, right? They don't understand the type of democratic republic we have. They don't understand our welfare system. They don't understand it, and the reason is because they don't come from that freedom from tyranny background that we're from. So that's another problem, is if you don't have borders, you can't protect your culture and your traditions, which is the heart of the nation.
That's really true. Because if they're immigrating legally, then they go through that training course where they're taught about the United States. And I think another point that isn't brought up a lot is these families that are sent over, these children that are left over there and literally smuggled into the United States by these drug cartels. These cartels are sending these migrants across the border and saying, if you do not produce this amount of money, then we're going to kill you, we're going to kill your family. So you have these immigrants that are driven they're really driven. That's their culture. They're driven behind a goal, and that goal is to, I feel like in a lot of cases, is to help out their family. So they're taking these jobs, but these jobs that are down south, they're taking advantage of that, and they're not giving them minimum wage and everything like that. Like, you've seen cases of that happening, and they're taking up those jobs, and it's really just a terrible thing because they're forced to come over by the cartels, and yeah, it's a terrible situation.
So, what is the cause of this mass migration, and why is it not being halted? Now, I want to start off by just giving my opinion. My opinion that most people argue that we should accept all these migrants does not solve the problem, right? Because that doesn't solve the source of the problem, which is a problem in the nations like El Salvador, Mexico, and where these gangs like MS-13 run everything. That's the problem. That's the source of the problem. Those gangs and the terror they cause, the type of governments that are, Mexico's government isn't really the best. These governments aren't taking care of their people enough, and that's the problem, not that the U.S. can't. Because the U.S. can't support a bunch of migrants, especially because our nation already has so many problems, and our nation is a dying population, sadly, which we need to fix.
Which is, immigration would be a solution to.
Yes, it would be a solution, but it has to be controlled migration, because the U.S. has been built on migration. Everyone here is basically migrants at some point, either Irish, German, some type of European, and now coming from South America and Central America. So migration in controlled amounts is fine, but that still doesn't address the inherent issue. Saying that we should let everybody in doesn't address the inherent issue, because it's never going to get better. And large surges like that aren't good for the migrants and aren't good for the country. So go ahead, give your opinions.
I think the source of it was Biden pretty much saying when he was getting elected that I will help out the immigrants. And I feel like this was plastered everywhere in Mexico at the time, and all over the world. Biden's going to let you in. Come to the United States. Everybody wants to come to the United States. Why? Because we're really prosperous, and we're a prosperous nation. And that's great. That's a great intention to come to the United States. Like I said, do it legally. But Joe Biden incentivized illegal immigration, because one of the first things he was campaigning on was, hey, I don't like the Remain in Mexico policy. I don't like this. I don't like that. I think we need more immigrants in the United States. We need to allow them in, pretty much. That's what his stance is as a Democrat. So all of these immigrants were thought of that idea, and they were like, hey, this is our opportunity to come into the United States. And then all these legal immigrants are now just cut out of the equation, because we can't. I don't think there's a limit to how many immigrants we can accept at the moment, but there's going to come a time when we're going to have to cut off the spigot, and the people who are left behind are the legitimate process, the ones who are trying to go through the process.
Micah, thoughts?
On the problem, or what's causing the problem? Okay.
Yeah.
Tracking the discussion. I honestly don't know. Again, historically, the Monroe Doctrine kind of established that America would kind of try to establish sovereignty over this area, right? We are not the government of North and South America. But we act as this is our turf, right? There's other sovereign governments here, but we're kind of keeping an eye out because we don't want another superpower right next to us. Part of the reason why the Cuban Missile Crisis was such a big deal. And so, sorry, just totally lost my train of thought for a second. That might be some of the attraction, right? If the U.S. has been this kind of, I don't know how successfully it has done that, or if we've changed policies since the 18 whatever. But at least traditionally, the U.S. has been this kind of beacon, right? It's been this protective shield. And if your country isn't doing that hot, then you go closer to what. And so I don't think that's a bad thing necessarily, right? The U.S. The U.S. is doing its job. It's promoting peace in its region. It's trying to keep things going smoothly. So that could be part of it, but I honestly can't track it to a single problem. I'm sure it's a variety of factors.
That's a good point, though. I like that. what current politicians, and we don't need to call them out by the name, but what current policies avoid the border crisis, and how would they justify the mass migration of illegal aliens? What type of groups and what type of individuals currently are pushing for, are just avoiding this border crisis, or pushing for more illegal immigration or legal immigration through the way of just giving everybody visas?
I mean, like a specific like a specific.
Well, you don't have to give specific examples because we don't want to.
Yeah, well, I would say a lot. I mean, obviously, a lot of the Democratic Party pushes that, but I mean, some Republicans even swing that way too on the side of immigration, and it's. Yeah, I mean, to pinpoint it to a certain politician, you can't really do.
Yeah.
I guess it's just the ideology
of... What type of ideology?
I mean, I don't want to say it, but I've heard this a lot, and it makes a lot of sense, and you guys can help me understand it a little bit more, but the replacement theory, I think, is a really pressing matter, and it's the fact that we're taking in so many immigrants, and we're losing we're taking so many illegal immigrants, and we're losing so much of our population because our population isn't repopulating enough. You just said that. And we're taking in so many illegal immigrants that we're effectively, and we're not teaching them about America, like we also said. We're effectively replacing American citizens with people who do not know the American ideology, who do not know what this country was founded upon, our values, and you're replacing the average American with illegal immigrants. And that, like, the theory is that, like, that's what the Democratic Party is trying to do, because then they sustain a very large voting bloc. If they can get all of these illegal immigrants certified, and they don't have to bring a voter ID or anything to their next show up to vote, then they have that massive voter bloc, because those illegal immigrants are like, you let me into this country. Like, your administration did this for me. Your administration provides more welfare for me. Here we go. Here's your vote. And it's like that. It's the same with the welfare system. You see a lot of people who are more reliant on the government, in that case, voting more democratically, because more Democrat policies means more welfare money for them. And it's the same way with the immigration policies. If you vote in more Democrats, then you effectively are helping yourself out, and you're helping more people cross the border illegally. And it's interesting. That's just a theory that I've heard of. Mm-hmm. I mean, we can discuss it here, and maybe you guys can give your opinions.
A better way to say that would be a replacement ideology theory. So you're seeing this, I don't want to say progressive or liberal, but this new anti-traditional movement, which is trying to replace, you see it everywhere in culture. They're trying to break down any type of system that has existed in the U.S. and replace it with a new, unproven, or blatantly false ideology.
Super true.
And one way doing that is to bring in a culture that doesn't know our freedoms, our traditions. I'm not saying they're stupid, they're just uneducated about our history.
Yeah, and so if they went through it legally, then they would be educated.
If they knew our background, they knew why we have the Second Amendment, why we have welfare. It used to be in the private sector, but now it's going more and more towards the government controlling it. Yes.
This might be a bit of a tangent, but I don't know about replacement ideology theory, but the idea that people are uneducated about America, mm-hmm. I would also argue that a lot of people born in America are not educated about
I would argue that more Americans know less than
maybe we need I don't know, some sort of mandatory American government class in schools.
Yes.
I'm probably saying something super dumb because I'm not public schooled, and so I don't know exactly.
They have history class, but I mean, this education system is well underfunded.
Government values.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It's important as a member of a state to understand the state.
Yeah.
I would say it's a mark of a good life to participate in civic life.
Yeah.
So
that's
don't want to get too far afield.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah, that is a good point.
It bothers me.
Yeah.
That's, like I said, it's an ideology or a theory that I'm increasingly coming to consider, because I'm I mean, the Biden administration isn't doing anything about this illegal immigration. They, like I said earlier, they haven't even visited down there. So they obviously don't care about the crisis. I mean, they've even said it is a crisis, yet they're not even going there to help out. So it makes me think, it's making my brain move and think, like, why are you allowing this? It just doesn't make any sense. Like, no other country in the world is just allowing this a mass amount of migration. Like, I mean, we could look to Europe for this too. They have in-depth European Union immigration policies because there's a lot of terror that happens over there.
But you've seen a lot of crime come along with that with the legal and illegal immigration.
And some of it might be liberal ideology, right?
Yeah.
So I read a really interesting book, but essentially it got me thinking about how generally the liberal ideology is much more focused on liberties and welfare. Right? Like, how are you doing, safety and welfare. Okay. And so conservatives tend to skew too far and like, we'll have total freedom and no safety. Liberals, it's all safety, no freedom, right? That's an extreme, but that's how it moves on the spectrum. And so some of it might just be ideological, right? Like, these people are fleeing from something, conditions aren't good, we want to help them. In some cases, there might not be ulterior motive, but historically, there has been a lot of like finding ways to find people to vote for you is not new. I don't know if that's what's happening here, but like, I would not be shocked.
They are politicians.
I mean, people get on Biden for passing all these stimulus checks, but the first one was passed by Trump right before the 2020 election, right? So it's not exactly like we have one party that's perfectly guiltless.
You're right. You're right.
So with what policies can the border crisis be fixed? You don't have to give any specific policies, but maybe just some ideas.
Definitely more like processing, finding ways to make it legal.
Okay.
I mean,
not every illegal immigrant is like getting in there because they couldn't legally, like had a criminal record or something.
Right. You're right. Yeah.
Some just really need to get in.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Like, if we have like massive immigration coming from some place, we should work on putting infrastructure there to deal with massive immigration coming from one place.
Exactly,
right?
and that's what another thing that gets my brain moving is that they're removing the funding, or at least they're lowering the funding of the border security. Yeah, and that's like the last thing you want to do in a crisis like it is now. Mm-hmm. You want to fund them even more so that they can support, so that they can allow, safe illegal immigration, because because these people are just coming in. And they're getting put, like, you heard of the case of the people that were in the back of a truck and like 13 of them
during
died?
COVID, remember they had like the isolated children chambers and like all this weird stuff?
Yeah.
Like where they were isolating the children from the parents, and then there was just people sleeping in the floors in these unsanitary government.
And then Joe Biden says, he looks at all this, or I won't say Joe Biden, I'll just say the current administration will look at this and will say, yes, this is what we need to do. We need to not fund, and we need to remove all of our policies in regards of safety for these people. And then this is what happens. You have increased crime. You have the Texas border, the Texas National Guard going down to help out at the border crisis. Like, Texas is like, all right, if you're not going to help me out, I'm going to help out myself. Mm-hmm. And you're obviously not helping out American citizens with this policy and with these certain policies that are in place. And that's what we should be doing. Yeah. But I feel like we've gotten to the point where we're like, America's already well off enough. We should go and help out all these other countries. And it's like, no, there's still problems that we need to solve with our border and with a bunch of other things in the United States. Yeah. And we need to focus on ourselves first, and then we could possibly move to helping out others. But that's just I don't know. It's my brain moving.